So we've heard a lot of loathsome things within the past 3 weeks or so, as Israel is absolutely leveling Gaza and killing massive numbers of children and civilians and destroying all sorts of infrastructure like apartment buildings and bakeries and hospitals and mosques and churches. And we've heard a lot of gross things. But here we have an example. This is one of the MSNBC hosts who's actually good on this issue, Ali Velshi. And he's going to talk to former Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett here. And there's a moment at the end of this interview that I think is so illuminating that I had to share with you. You're going to hear a term that this guy uses, which is going to make your skin crawl. Watch this.
Is there a way in which you can achieve the goals that you are talking about today and whatever vengeance and retribution needs to be had for October 7th or justice without 10,000 Palestinians being dead?
It's Hamas who's killing its own people by hiding them in tunnels.
But that's not true. That's not entirely true.
Oh, it is
things
entirely
are literally
true because if you place your rockets in schools, in homes, and you use human shields, you effectively are killing your own people. So it's not only genocide against Israelis; it's self-genocide. These are savage
you know that we've
murderers,
spoken to war crimes people who tell us that's not how courts would see it.
That's exactly what's happening.
Mr. Bennett, I know that Israel doesn't subscribe to the ICC, so it may not be relevant to you, but that's actually not a globally interpreted legal interpretation of war crimes.
He said Palestinians are self-genociding. They're self-genociding. How do you even respond to that? Look, let's grant them the notion that Hamas hides their rockets by civilian infrastructure. Let's grant them that. It still does not give you the right to kill 90% civilians in your bombing campaign. Because the fact of the matter is this. If there was a human shield used in a different context, everybody realizes, well, obviously you can't shoot. The example I've given time and time again, somebody goes to your kid's school and holds a gun to their head. Would the local police department send a drone to blow up the school and kill the 300 people inside of it? Because there's one evildoer with a gun to your kid's head? No, and if the police department did do that, you bet your ass there would be lawsuits, there would be criminal charges, people would be going to prison forever. Because nobody in their right mind would say, oh, well, they set this trap for me. Let me walk right into the trap and kill 300 innocent civilians, 300 children, because there's one bad guy doing something horrible, holding a gun to a kid's head. Like, if you explain this human shields idea in any other context, any reasonable person goes, that makes no sense at all. Yeah, you can't just drop a bomb in that instance. You just can't do it. But the fact of the matter is what? They don't care at all about Palestinians. We've heard their top officials describe them as like human animals. We've heard them say, look, they're all guilty. There are no innocent civilians there. They could have couped Hamas. They didn't, so we blame them just as much. They've said these things. So we know they just don't care about Palestinian children, about Palestinian civilians, and that's why they drop the bombs. That's why they do it. So to use a phrase like self-genocide on national TV with a straight face, yeah, I'm killing 90% civilians. Yeah, I killed 9,000 innocent people, but you made me do it. That is serial killer shit right there, man. That is serial killer shit. So I just want to remind everybody, let me just remind you, these are the numbers that we're talking about. 10,581 people killed. Of them, 9,641 are civilians. So we're talking about 90% civilian death rate. 2,411 people trapped under the rubble. 28,000 injuries. 1.5 million displaced people. 51,000 homes completely destroyed. 153,000 that are partially destroyed. 109 damaged press headquarters. 194 schools damaged. 740 jobs, industrial facilities, 61 mosques, 3 churches, 290 health staff have been targeted, including 135 deaths, 111 health facilities, and 46 journalists. Does this look like they're concerned about innocent life? No. If it's exactly what he said, as Ali Velshi is pointing out, even if you are correct, Naftali Bennett, in your description of everything, Israel's committing war crimes. Even if everything you say here is true, the human shields, etc., you're still guilty of war crimes. If there's 10 Hamas members, violent individuals, who are in a hospital getting treated, but there's 30 innocent people, including women and children and doctors, and you decide we're going to bomb, you are a war criminal. You are a war criminal. That is against international law, as it should be. We wouldn't accept it from anybody else. Why would we accept it from you? And let's be clear, we've now dropped more bombs in a 3-week time span in Israel. There are more bombs dropped, my dyslexia is showing there, than in Afghanistan for an entire year. In the year where there was the most bombardment in Afghanistan. This is an indiscriminate slaughter, is what it is. And he had the nerve to go on national TV and say, it's self-genocide. Who, us? Little old poor us? Israel? We've never done anything wrong ever. We're right about everything. It's self-genocide of the Palestinians. They're genociding themselves. It's a rough thing to say to 4,000 dead children. Which, by the way, is the real number, 4,412. War criminals, man. All of them. Look, in a world that made sense, the Hamas leaders would be arrested, tried at the International Criminal Court, and found guilty of war crimes. And also, Netanyahu would face the same fate. The head of Likud, the head of the IDF, they would face the same fate. Here's a crazy fact. About 55% of the victims of the October 7th terror attack waged by Hamas against Israel, about 55% of the victims were military personnel. That means Hamas hits 45% innocent civilians. Those are crimes. Those are war crimes. That's unacceptable. 45% innocent civilians. Israel's hitting 90% innocent civilians. Israel has a higher raw number of civilians killed and a higher percentage of civilians killed. So you want to call Hamas terrorists? I'm right there with you. So is the IDF. So is the government of Israel. And so is this son of a bitch on national TV saying Palestinians are self-genociding themselves. Unbelievably grotesque and idiotic. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.